Welcome back, welcome into the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. This is our midweek show. I am your host, Blair Parks, coming live to you once again from the Hawk Cave, the Man Cave, going to discuss what happened in Week 6 and a little bit kind of scratch the surface on the upcoming Week 7. If you've been watching the previous episodes, and if you have, I appreciate your viewership, your support. Please feel free, like, share, subscribe. Let's get the word out there to all black and gold fans, but to all fans of the college football landscape across this great nation and this globe. You know, why settle for small? Let's think big, people. So, want to thank you once again for being here with me. And if you watched my previous episode, I did say that I was going to try to kind of experiment with a new format. What I was doing prior to this week is I was releasing 2 longer episodes, always a review show early in the week to review the games that happened during the previous weekend, and then later in the week I would always have a preview show of the action and games yet to come for the upcoming weekend. But the feedback I would always get was, Blair, you're just too damn long-winded. You don't know when to shut up. And I've heard that often throughout my life. I always have something to say. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to have 3 shows each week. I'm going to have I'm hoping for Monday morning, Monday early afternoon to have the review shows from the weekend that was. Have a midweek show, which I'm going to do today, which the midweek show will set up the end of the week show, the preview show for the upcoming college football week. And so hopefully it's going to be Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, but obviously this week I did fall behind. I've got really swamped with work, a lot of things going on. I took a day off yesterday. I needed a little bit of time to recalibrate, to reconfigure, to re-energize, kind of like what Alabama's going to need to do following that awful loss against Texas A&M. So next week I will keep this on schedule. I promised. My apologies to you, the Black and Gold family. But next week expect Monday, Wednesday, Thursday shows. So today what I'm going to do, as I will do for every midweek show, I will give you any updated storylines and headlines that have matriculated around the college football landscape. Also will then share with you my updated both team and conference power rankings, and also a tidbit here or there. And this week I haven't updated you for a few weeks on right now where I currently see the Heisman Trophy race at. Who's in, who's out, who's going to be in New York, and who's going to continue to dream about holding the Heisman Trophy hardware. So let's go ahead and get right into it, shall we? Now that Week 6 is in the rearview mirror, Week 7 is approaching, and if you recall, I dubbed Week 6 the main course. And I said weeks 4 to 7, that was going to act as our 4-course meal, to where we would finally be provided some separation and clarity on who the legitimate playoff contenders are, who are those that might need a little bit of help just on the outside looking in, and everybody else. So Week 7 is going to be our final course approaching dessert. Watch tomorrow's show as I preview the key matchups for this week, and also give you a little bit of insight on how I see our black and gold squads of Missouri and Iowa, how they're going to fare this weekend, and how I see it playing out on the gridiron. So let's go into my first topic today, is updated storylines and headlines. And I haven't shared a lot of these with you for the last few weeks. And unfortunately, there's a lot of big-time injury news to share with you. I hate going through this. I never want to see any amateur athlete, which, yes, some of these young men are with the with the happening of NIL. Some of them are collecting some form of compensation potentially on the side, but these are still amateur athletes, and I hate to see any one of them go down with injury, which then could really change the entire fortune of their teams. At that point, are they going to continue to have an upward trajectory or a downward trajectory? So let's get it. The first bit of injury news is from running back C.J. Verdell. He is the Oregon Ducks' star running back, definitely their biggest offensive weapon. He did suffer an injury a couple weeks ago at Stanford when they were upset, and he unfortunately will be out for the season with a lower leg injury. Now, this is big news because Oregon, even though they have the one loss now to Stanford, they are still absolutely in the playoff picture and discussion. They went out when smoke clears. If you have a 12-1 Pac-12 champion, they're going to be absolutely right there, especially because of that big non-conference win that they have at Ohio State in Columbus. So that is going to really sway things big time in their favor if they're right there. If they're compared to this team or that team, do you have a showcase non-conference victory? Which absolutely they do. So unfortunate for C.J. Verdell and the Ducks, but let's see how they weather the storm. Next one is I need to share, there's multiple big-time injuries at LSU with the Tigers. Their star defensive back, Derek Stingley Jr., may be potentially lost for the season. He did have surgery recently. They haven't released a legitimate timetable when he might return, but it wouldn't surprise me if he packs it up for the season because he is projected to be the first defensive back taken in the upcoming NFL draft in the spring. So at this point, it seems like the season for LSU is spiraling out of control. So you've got to think about your future and take care of old number one. Think about the Benjamins that are involved. So I would be surprised if we see him back on the field. So good luck to you, Mr. Stingley. Hopefully you recover. You're going to have a great career in the NFL. Also, too, just this week, things just keep getting worse for LSU. They also lost their star wide receiver, Kayshon Boutte, Mr. Boutte. He will be out for the season with an ankle injury. I believe he, at this point, had 7 touchdown receptions, was absolutely their best and most experienced wide receiver. And this is a team now that finds themselves 500, 3-3, with a ton of tough games remaining on their schedule. Things are definitely not looking good down there in Baton Rouge. So, big-time injuries for LSU. Next one that we witnessed during the game, Week 6, Penn State at Iowa. And folks, I am still living large on cloud 9 following that win. I mean, what a moment it was. The more I rewatch the game, I read the articles, I see the interviews. It's just something that I'm never going to forget. Well, hopefully never forget, as I'm 80, 90 years old, rotting in some nursing home. My mind, my body might be giving out and going away, but hopefully I'll always have that memory of watching that game unfold the way it did. But during that game, defensive tackle and the team captain for Penn State, P.J. Mustipher, left the game, did not return, and it was shared this week by Penn State head coach James Franklin that P.J. will be out for the rest of the season as well with an injury. Didn't really see any specifics on what the injury is, where at on the body, but he will not return. That is a big loss for the Penn State defense. Guy's an absolute dude, a man among boys. So hopefully PJ will rebound because he definitely has a career on Sundays as well. More injuries. Quarterback De'Aaron King. Now, this was a guy that coming into the season was on a lot of people's Heisman trophy radars. he was one of those to me that was just on the outside looking in, but he definitely had the chance to be there because preseason Miami was ranked number 14. Definitely the season has not played out the way they wanted it to. I believe they have 3 losses now. And this quarterback, who's very mobile, an absolute stud, a playmaker, dynamic, he will miss the rest of the season with a shoulder injury. So big-time loss for Miami. And there are troubled waters, troubled tides down there in Miami as well for Coach Manny Diaz. That seat is absolutely getting a little bit hotter down there in South Beach. So hopefully De'Eric rebounds. Best of luck. Heal, come back better, get it done. The last injury I want to share with you, the black and gold family, is Indiana quarterback Michael Penix Jr. He left the game 2 weeks ago when Indiana was at Penn State, a game that would ultimately be a 24-0 victory for Penn State. He left late in the second half. At that point, the game was pretty much already over anyway. But he left that game with an apparent shoulder injury, and they have a big-time contest this coming weekend. They host top 10 Michigan State, who's undefeated. Well done, Sparty. Go green. But right now, it is unknown what his status will be. I mean, there is no official he's in, he's out. They've said it's going to come down to pregame snaps and warm-ups, but he might miss this game. And this is big because he's had a history of injuries during his time at Indiana. So it would be up to Sam Tuttle, to take the snaps. Hopefully he returns. If not, I still expect this to be a heated game. I think it's going to be nip and tuck. Definitely I'll break that one further down during tomorrow's show. But hopefully Michael Penix Jr. comes back sooner than later. His injury did not require surgery, just something that's going to have to heal on its own. So those are the updated major injuries that could impact the college football landscape. So I wanted to share those with you. Next thing, I've got a couple of coaching hot seats that I wanted to share with you. I already mentioned LSU being 3-3, and that is something that is not acceptable to the Bayou Bengals and their fans. I mean, the standards and the expectations at LSU are always pretty much SEC title and SC and playoff expectations year in, year out. Especially 2 years ago, they were the national champions. Maybe one of the most magical, best seasons we've ever witnessed under quarterback Joe Burrow. But now they find themselves 300, and Coach Ed Orgeron, a guy who I am absolutely rooting for, Coach O, go Tigers. He's definitely in trouble. They have a huge game this week. They host number 20 Florida. They lose that game. They drop to 3-4. They still have to play Alabama, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Arkansas. So things don't get any easier for LSU. And I definitely think that Coach O is in big-time trouble. But once again, if you watched an earlier episode this season during my crystal ball predictions, this guy right here, did predict that Coach O would be gone by season's end at LSU anyway, but I thought more or less due to the off-field issues that have been plaguing that program. But it might be tough for them not to dismiss him, both coupled with that and their on-field performance. So hold on to your butts there in LSU. It's going to get interesting. Next one is Nebraska coach Scott Frost. And I did say this during earlier this week's show that with their loss on Saturday night against Michigan, they hosted the Wolverines, big primetime game on ABC. They lost again in Nebraska fashion, found a way to lose, another one-possession game. The last 4 years, since Scott Frost took over the helm at Nebraska, they lead the nation. They are a dismal 5-16 in one-possession games. I mean, this is something that has absolutely plagued them. They have played better, Nebraska has as of late, but it's just basically another moral victory that you can add to a long list of moral victories for Nebraska. When are they going to break through? When are they going to put it together? Hopefully it won't be the last game of the year on Black Friday against Iowa, but somebody, did pick Nebraska preseason to win that game. So we'll have to wait and see what plays out. So definitely has got to right the ship there in Lincoln, but that seat is getting even hotter there for Scott Frost. And also, he is now 10-20 in Big Ten Conference play as the head coach. I mean, nobody saw that coming. The favorite son returned, riding high, and here they find themselves basically last in the Big Ten West. I mean, this is unprecedented. Will he survive? Time will tell. So, and also Nick Saban wanted to say, with the loss Saturday night, their unprecedented loss at College Station against Texas A&M, Nick Saban's record, his perfect record against former assistants, came to an end. He came into that game against Coach Jimbo Fisher, 24-0. Now he is 24-1. So that streak for Coach Nick Saban against his former assistants is over. But now it's time for him to start a new streak. So we'll see what he can do. Now some basic other information, some other storylines, headlines. Alabama, with that loss to Texas A&M, saw their streak of 100 straight games. They had victories against unranked opponents. We saw that streak end. So 100, it's over. It's going to start back over. They do host an unranked Mississippi State squad this week, so it's going to hopefully start back at 1. Definitely newsworthy. Had to share that with you. I did during the earlier week's show, but had to share that with you again in case you missed it, because that is headline worthy. 100 straight wins against unranked opponents. Definitely getting it done down there in T-Town. Spencer Rattler came into this season. He's the Oklahoma quarterback. He came into this season the overwhelming preseason Heisman Trophy winner. Definitely right now is the number one overall prospect, number one quarterback that they're projecting to be taken in the upcoming NFL draft. But big news over the weekend. During the Red River rivalry game, Oklahoma's biggest game of the year and every year against their hated rival Texas, due to some early struggles, 2 turnovers, he was benched in favor for true freshman quarterback Caleb Williams. And now coming into this week, when they play TCU, there's a quarterback controversy in Oklahoma. We still do not know who the starting QB is going to be. I would be shocked if it's not Caleb Williams after bringing them back from a 28-7 deficit at the end of the first quarter. I don't see how you can't start Caleb Williams over Spencer Rattler. But hey, I'm not the coach. It's out of my pay grade. I don't want that job, so we'll see what Lincoln Riley does down there in Oklahoma. But stay tuned to the fallout from Spencer Rattler's benching, but also now just to see how much his stock has fallen to where he struggled this year. He struggled a little bit early season last year, just turnovers, untimely turnovers, poor decisions. That's still happening this year, but it's not all his fault because that Oklahoma offensive line, not good. Defense doesn't do them any favors. Hell, I think right now, even though it ended days ago, I don't think anybody has still been tackled in the Texas-Oklahoma game. I mean, that's the way it is. So we'll see how that situation plays out down in Norman with Spencer Rattler and a QB controversy. I mean, interesting stuff to see what's going to happen there. Next thing, I need to give a shout out to my conference, the Big Ten. 5 of the 10 teams in this week's AP poll are Big Ten teams. That is the first time ever in the history of the AP poll. Well done. Keep it up. Get it done, Big Ten. Well, now, will that be enough for them for the Big Ten to take over the top spot in my conference power rankings? Stay tuned. You'll find out here shortly. The parity. Speaking of the AP poll, this has been the ongoing theme during this college football season, the parity. I need to share some stats with you. I did some research. There have been 40 ranked teams that have lost, and we're only halfway through the season. 40 have gone down. 44% of the teams that were ranked in the initial AP poll prior to week 0 find themselves unranked. just below 50% of the teams that were ranked are not ranked now at the halfway point. Absolutely, this is what makes this sport excellent and just must-watch TV. It is the greatest single sporting event that we have in this nation, and that proves it right there. I mean, you have to watch. 44% of the teams now are unranked. That's one of two things. Either, wow, things are so much more competitive, or, wow, we were way wrong thinking these teams were going to be legit. Wow. So we'll have to, just keep it up, because there are definitely going to be plenty of more upsets in the near future. One thing I wanted to mention about Penn State, I know that was a tough loss against my Hawkeyes. I absolutely expect the Nittany Lions to bounce back. Really depends on the health of quarterback Sean Clifford. But have no fear, Penn State fans. You might find yourself potentially in a rematch with Iowa in the Big Ten title game, but you got to run through that gauntlet in the Big Ten East. But check this out, a little tidbit of history, because I am a big fan of history. October 9th, 2021, just a few days ago, you lost in a number 3 versus number 4 matchup against Iowa. The next day, you drop in the polls, and Georgia takes over the number 1 spot in the AP poll. Now, rewind a little bit. Rewind button. In 1982, in another 3 and 4 matchup on the same day, October 9th, but this time you were ranked number 3. You lost at number 4 Alabama. The next day in the AP poll, the new number 1 happened to be, you guessed it, Georgia. And in the 1983 edition of the Sugar Bowl, which was the national title game, it pitted number 1 Georgia against number 2 Penn State. And if you're a Penn State fan, you know how that one came out. You won. So there is hope. History does repeat itself. Hang in there, keep playing, do what you do, and we'll see what plays out throughout the season. So that is my updated storylines and headlines for this midweek show. Now let me give you a quick update on the Heisman Trophy race. According to me, I could say some things, but I'm not, because I'm trying to keep this PG-13. But these are the 4 Heisman Trophy finalists that I believe, if it was announced today who those finalists were, these are the 4 individuals you would find yourselves at the New York City Athletic Club for the presentation. You would have Alabama quarterback Bryce Young, Ole Miss quarterback Matt Corral, Ohio State quarterback C.J. Stroud. These 3 are putting up huge numbers. Definitely kind of a overall theme here. A lot of quarterbacks. But the 4th individual, somebody that's kind of come out of nowhere, and he has to be given his props, is the Michigan State running back Kenneth Walker III, leading the nation in rushing yards, rushing touchdowns, average yards per carry. I believe every major stat for a running back, he's leading. So he would definitely be there as well. I mean, what a season for the Wake Forest transfer now at Michigan State. So that is my updated Heisman Trophy standings. Those are the 4 who would be there today. Feel free. As always, I want your comments, your concerns, your questions. Let me know if you agree, you disagree with anything I've said so far. I value that. I harbor that, and whatever you share with me, I will absolutely get you on the air and share your questions and your comments. So thank you very much. Continue to please like, share, subscribe. I appreciate your support. Now comes the big time where I give you my updated power rankings. And I'm going to start with my updated team power rankings following Week 6, the main course. And compared to last week, we do have a little bit of movement. And we do have one team that is making their initial appearance on my team power rankings. I always give every week a top 10 plus 2. And throughout the season, I'll update you on whether they're moving up or moving down or staying right where they were. So let's start with number 1 is Georgia, and there's no movement. I had them ranked number 1. They were the number 1 team on my power rankings 2 weeks ago. I believed they were better than Alabama, and now they're number 1 both in the AP poll and my team power rankings. At number 2, I have Iowa. After that big win against Penn State, they seized their moment. Historic win, signature win, maybe not just for this year, but in the last decade or decades. They move up 1 spot from number 3 to number 2. Number 3, even though it was defense optional, they did pull it out, down 28-7, 38-20 at the half. I do have Oklahoma moving up 2 spots, undefeated after their big win, comeback win over Texas in the Red River rivalry. Number 4, up 2 spots from last week, I've got the Cincinnati Bearcats. They're ranked number 3 in the AP poll. I am all about this squad. I want them to be playoff crashers. We have to wait and see how the rest of the season plays out, but they are in prime position to make that happen. Like Al Davis said, just win, baby, and you'll find yourselves there. So I have them at the number 4 spot. Number 5, down 1 slot after week 6, I do have Penn State. That team still impressed me so much in Kenneth Stadium Saturday. So I do have them only dropping 1 spot to number 5. I think they are right now, and this really comes down to the health of Sean Clifford too. But right now, I think they are the best 1-loss team in the nation. Agree, disagree, it's up to you. Let me know, and we'll see how that plays out over the next few weeks. Number 6, how the mighty have fallen. Down goes Frazier. Number 6, I have down 4 spots, is the Alabama Crimson Tide. Got absolutely shocked Saturday night against Texas A&M. I've never seen a Nick Saban coach team get absolutely used and abused and dominated on both sides of the ball in the trenches. They've got some concerns there, absolutely. They have big-time games still remaining. They still have to play Arkansas, Auburn, and LSU. So hopefully they can right the ship there in Alabama, because if they get 1 more loss, at that point their postseason expectations and dreams are done. Their bubble is burst. They won't make the playoff. They won't even probably win their division. So 1 more loss, they are done moving forward for the big prizes. Number 7, didn't move, no movement. I've got number 7, Oregon. They were on bye. Number 8, I have Ohio State. I have them staying where they were last week as well. And the reason why I can't put Ohio State ahead of Oregon in my power rankings is because Oregon beat them straight up head-to-head, even though the AP poll, head-scratcher to me, has Ohio State ranked ahead of Oregon. But not to me, not fair. So number 8 behind Oregon is Ohio State. Now, number 9, the big mover. I am very impressed with this team. They've got a huge matchup this coming weekend. It will be my spotlight game of the week. I've got a number 9 up 3 spots. The Kentucky Wildcats took care of business at home against LSU. Prior to that, knocked off Florida at home. This is a legitimate, complete team. Tough, strong defense. 1-2, good punch at running back with Chris Rodriguez and my boy, I can't say his name enough, Cavassier Smoke. Love that. And they have a playmaker at quarterback in Penn State transfer, Will Levis. And right now, how much would Penn State fans like to have Will Levis back after transferring in the offseason, after how poorly their backup quarterback performed after Sean Clifford left against Iowa? So I've got them number 3, but they have a huge matchup, as I stated. They travel to number 1 and undefeated Georgia. That'll be my spotlight game tomorrow. Make sure you tune in for more insight and analysis on that game. Number 10, I have the Michigan Wolverines. They stay where they were following last week. Definitely got a good win in a hostile environment at Nebraska, but I'm still not sold on this Michigan team. They still have a lot more to show me, because their schedule, they have an off week this week, and so is Ohio State. They have a bye as well. Both of those team schedules are going to get more difficult, and also Penn State has a bye as well. because they're going to start playing each other in the Big Ten East round robin, the musical chairs, also with Michigan State. It's going to be high drama in the Big Ten East the second half of the season. Number 11, making their initial appearance on my team power rankings, is the aforementioned Michigan State Spartans. They still need to show me a little bit more. They have a big-time sneaky game potentially this week. As I mentioned, they travel to Indiana. And whether Michael Penix Jr. plays or not, this is going to be a close game. So if they win that game, potentially they might move up a spot. We'll have to wait and see what happens. And then number 12, down one spot. I hate to penalize a team that had a bye, but just from what's played out, at least they're still on my list. They've got a huge matchup this coming weekend. Down one spot from 11 to 12 is the Oklahoma State Cowboys, undefeated in the Big 12. We'll see if they can become a factor and challenge Oklahoma and Texas. But there's still a lot of good teams in the Big 12. That race is really, really interesting. You have a lot of good teams. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State are undefeated, but Texas, Iowa State, Baylor, all right there with one loss. We'll see what plays out. Going to be interesting how the dice fall 7-11, 7-11 there in the Big 12. So my last topic of the day is my updated conference power rankings. And maybe there was some movement, maybe not. Hate to tell you, but things have been status quo now for the last 3 weeks. So before I give you my theme, I always like to have a fun theme every week when I unveil these to you, the Black and Gold family. Usually it's been either musical artists or movies, because I'm a huge fan of pop culture, if you couldn't tell. But this week I'm going to go off script. I'm going to do something because we recently had family game night, which it's not like we don't do that ever. We do, but we played a lot of games. I want to play a game this last week. So it brought me back to my childhood before iPads, before Kindles and devices and game consoles, which, hell, I'm not that old. We had those when I was a child, but, you know, we got our first Sega when we were in high school, my brother and I, so we were late bloomers, and I just turned 40. I'm a man, I'm 40. So, a little bit of shout out, feeling a little nostalgic. So because of playing those games, my theme this week revolve around classic board games. So before I tell you why this conference, what game they are, let me unveil those to you. Still, number one is the SEC, but they have been caught. Because of what's played out with Alabama losing, I said as long as the SEC had lockdown on number 1 and 2, Alabama, Georgia, Georgia, Alabama, you could always reverse those two, that it would be tough for me to take them down from number 1 on my conference power rankings. But now that Alabama has fallen, but Georgia absolutely is the best team in the nation right now. That's my opinion, but most people would share that opinion. But the Big Ten, I mentioned they have 5 teams in the top 10. 1, 2, 3 are undefeated. So the Big Ten has caught them. They haven't overtaken them, but they are neck and neck, nose to nose, coming around turn 3, heading for the home stretch. But the SEC, I'll keep them there because that's where they were number 1 last week. So number 2 is the Big Ten. Right there, they've caught them, but haven't quite overtaken the SEC. They're going to have their opportunities. Number 3 is still the Big 12. They are still right there with Oklahoma escaping again. Definitely have 2 eyes, potentially can reach the college football playoff. They're number 3 still. Number 4 is the Pac-12. I mean, Oregon is still alive for that playoff bid, but that's really their last hope. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. Obviously, Princess Leia is a little bit more provocative, and when she says it, but sorry, that was my best go with it, kind of off the cuff. And then last place, and it's been this way for numerous weeks, is the ACC. So let me share with you what board game each one of these conferences would represent. Now, Georgia, they are the best team. And the SEC does have numerous teams ranked in the top 25. I mean, they're kind of cannibalizing each other, but they're still major players. But Georgia is the biggest player, and right there is also Alabama still. They've answered and defeated every challenger they faced. I'm talking about Georgia. They defeated Clemson, which they necessarily weren't who we believed they were going to be. Arkansas in big-time convincing fashion. At Auburn, as they march from country to country, campus to campus, whether it be Charlotte, Vanderbilt, Auburn, they are coming to a city near you with the same goals to dominate, conquer. They're on a mission for conquest and domination of the college football world, so they are Risk. And yes, Ukraine is not weak. Loved playing Risk. We would have epic games, my brother and I, my Uncle Frank, that would last days. Not hours, not minutes, days. So Risk is the SEC. Second, the Big Ten. Through 6 weeks of football, 5 teams in the top 10, you have skillfully and cunningly placed your 5 pieces on the college football game board. 5 current top 10 teams. You find yourselves positioned very well, and now it's time for battle. Now the question is, whose armor can survive the most hits and remain afloat throughout and be the last ship standing? You are Battleship, Big Ten. It is time to go at it. Back and forth, the musical chairs. We're going to have these big-time matchups in the second half of the season. Fire away. The Big 12, Oklahoma, still continues to wiggle its way out of the traps placed by fellow Big 12 competition. They continue to outsmart the competition and escape the clamps of defeat. Why? Through heroics. They will the occupants of the house, being Oklahoma State, Texas, Baylor, Iowa State, will they finally be able to snare the mouse that is Oklahoma? Or will Oklahoma continue to steal the cheese? Will their luck eventually run out? So the Big 12, you are Mousetrap. Love Mousetrap. Still love it. Play it all the time with the kids. Number 4, the Pac-12. You have experienced your ups and downs throughout the season. You've had to roll with the punches and play the hands that you've been dealt. You've captivated our minds, our hearts with your early season victories. UCLA over LSU, Oregon at Ohio State. We've seen you rise and fall. We've been right there with you with every step of this season throughout your life. I can say this: oceans rise, empires fall. That's what's going on in the Pac-12. It's just a roll of the dice, of the counter, a grab and flip of the card. We've been there from the beginning as a young adult, whether you chose to go to college or take the career path, to the very end as a geriatric retiree. So you are the game of life. That is you, the Pac-12. Finally, the ACC. Who done it? How did this happen? How could you fall from grace so quickly? Your bell cow, Clemson, very early on, eliminated itself from playoff contention and as a conference as a whole. What are the circumstances that led to this? What was the weapon and who was the culprit? Is it poor coaching? Is it lack of talent? Is it lack of depth? Is it poor recruiting? Internal or external pressures? We don't know. We have to figure this out. Skillfully gather evidence, make an accusation, and offer it up to the college football landscape. Gather your clues, round up the suspects, and fix it prior to next season. You are the clue. That is you, the ACC. So there you have it. That's my midweek show for between week 6, the main course, and week 7, which is approaching the dessert course of our 4-course spiel. Make sure to tune in tomorrow. I'll be with you probably late morning, early afternoon for the Week 7 preview show. Big time episode, big things on tap for Week 7 in college football. As always, I appreciate your time, your support, your viewership. Let's get it out there. Like, share, subscribe. Until tomorrow, peace, love, prosperity, peace and love. Peace and love, like Ringo Starr would say. Have a good one. Thank you for joining me on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. We'll talk with you tomorrow. Bye.